You're right there, and you're uncomfortable, judgmental, and tight. How well would that go for the painting?
Not very well. Although, I don't know. That sounds interesting. I'd like to try to use that. Maybe it would be awesome, actually. That sounds cool. I like this. Man, how much do I owe you for this?
Welcome again to the Artful Dollar Podcast. I'm Ryan Roy. I am a tattoo artist, financial coach, and just all-around curious person around anything creative, money, business, spiritually oriented. And today I have a conversation with someone that was a tattoo client of mine. We actually did a trade. So he is a pretty talented painter and he does some pretty abstract portraits of people such as Biggie Smalls and Donald Trump. And he did what I traded for was actually an amazing painting of ODB, Old Dirty Bastard, that hangs in my tattoo shop. And while we were tattooing, we had a really interesting conversation on, again, some of my favorite topics: money, spirituality, ayahuasca, these things that I just tend to talk about. They influence me and I'm passionate about them. So he started a podcast. He asked if I would come on the podcast. So he was interviewing me, but we're really there talking about art and creativity. And there were just a couple big knowledge, wisdom bombs that got dropped in this conversation that I'm super excited to share with you. And that's pretty much it. It's me and Anthony and his co-hosts. They're all artists, and they're really just looking to create a podcast for the creative community, new kinds of conversations. That podcast is called the Ready Go Community, or Ready Go. I'll have a link to it in the show notes. And with that, I wish you to enjoy this lovely conversation. Take care.
Today, we are talking to, I'm not going to say his name yet because I don't want him to say anything, but we are talking to somebody who actually worked on me. He did a tattoo on me. And we just had such a great conversation while he was working on me about everything from ayahuasca to finances to art and creativity. So welcome to the podcast, Ryan Roy.
What's up? Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. What the hell have you been up to since I saw you over the pandemic? Your whole thing has changed. So yeah. I want to hear about this. Well, who are you? What have you been doing? And yeah, tell us about yourself.
Should I give a little history, I guess? Or I don't know. I don't go super far back.
Yeah, you can, because you kind of made this whole career change that I'm fascinated by. Yeah. My
name is Ryan Roy. I have been a tattooer for about 14, almost 15 years. I own a studio in Greenpoint, Brooklyn called Lowdown Tattoo. I think my studio had a different name when you got tattooed because it was a private studio then, and we've since expanded to a street front location. We decided to rebrand it, and I have a bunch of artists. And so, yeah, Lowdown Tattoo is the name of the shop. But since I tattooed you, so much has changed. Because I tattooed you right before the pandemic. Is that right?
It was during the pandemic.
We were wearing
masks. Yeah. We were wearing masks, I remember. Yeah, we went through it was 2 3-hour sessions of wearing masks and talking about everything from, I mean, literally everything. It was amazing.
I'm one of those tattooers that I like to talk while I'm tattooing. I feel like I can almost get in the flow more. I've always been an artist. I actually went to school for jewelry and metalsmithing, and my tattoo work is, on the more detail, fine line, illustrative style of work. So yeah, that's just been my life's passion. My whole, since I was 21 is when I started. And even before that, I was working in tattoo shops as a body piercer. And so tattooing has been my whole life. And along that journey, I realized that I'm fucking horrible with money. I'm just bad with money. And it sucked to be bad at money. Life's a lot harder when you're bad with money. And I was making decent money. And so I just couldn't really quite figure it out, and dealing with taxes was a nightmare, and retirement was, a whole enigma that I didn't understand. But somewhere in the, late 20s, early 30s was no one's going to do this for me. No one's going to just say hey, Ryan, here's your retirement account. I need to figure this shit out. All I wanted to do was I wanted to do sick tats. That's all I wanted to do. But then the money thing was impacting my ability to do sick tats all the time. And it was stressful. I don't know if this was divine intervention or something, but it was somehow I got this idea that if I got good at the money thing, if I learned about it in the same way that I learned how to tattoo, I could learn about money, that would give me more time, more energy, and more money to focus on doing tattoos, which is all I wanted to do. And I had a private studio. After about 8 years of tattooing at shops, I opened up a private studio, which put more financial responsibility on me. So I just got interested in personal finance. I read this book, The Richest Man in Babylon, which is a great story. It's a short book, which is great. And it teaches you about the rules, the laws, the game of money from a perspective of a story, which is great. It's easier to understand and apply what you learn versus do XYZ, you know? It gave context to it all. Then something went from like, I'm interested in this because I want to be a good tattooer to I'm just like really fascinated with the world of finance, personal finance, business finance, investing. And that was not at all what I thought was going to happen. Like I said, I never considered myself good with math or like a money person. I was really good at spending money. I was really good at making money, really good at spending money, not so good at saving money for my entire life. So, you know, then the pandemic hit around the time that I was tattooing you. I was starting an online business. I had a 4-month-old baby when the pandemic started. I had to shut down my tattoo studio. Thankfully, at the time, had already started my financial journey quite a lot. And I had been thinking about financial coaching as like thinking about it in the way that like, the tattoo industry really could use some guidance. And probably guidance from a tattooer, not from like Chad from Fidelity in a blazer telling you what to do. Yeah. But I didn't have time to pursue it. And then everything changed and my whole life got shut down. And all of a sudden I had lots of time to pursue it when I wasn't like frantically trying to, survive with my wife and daughter and everything in a 700 square foot apartment. I started posting stuff on my tattoo Instagram about money, which I was so terrified to do at first because they're like, didn't want to be judged, didn't want like people to think that I'm full of shit. Like, why is this tattoo guy talking about money? What the fuck is this? Just how judgmental people can be. But I am really passionate about financial freedom, not because I care about money. I don't care about money, to be totally honest. I care about people. I care about our lives. I care about the impact that it has. And when you achieve, financial freedom, which looks very different for people. And I don't think that you necessarily need to have all the money in the world or passive income to achieve financial freedom. I think you can have financial freedom now. Everything gets easier. Every part of my life, my health, my well-being, my communication, my relationships, my ability to be a parent, my ability to have fun, relax in my life gets better. So that's why I'm interested in finance and personal finance. And also, it's a topic that is so like triggering for people. And it's like, food, money, and sex. Those 3 topics, like no one wants to talk about them. And out of the 3, they'll talk about food. They might talk about sex, but no one wants to fucking talk about money. And so there was something that was alluring to me about it in that sense of like, this is like the no-go zone. Like even people that are rebels don't go here. And I was like, I'm going to be the rebel that goes here. Yeah. And then, I started working with clients one-on-one, and that was cool. And then I got more clients, and I had a wait list, and I kept raising my prices, and it was getting like a little out of control. And like, I was like, I can't keep raising my prices. It's worth it, but I didn't feel comfortable doing that. So I went into group coaching. And so now I run a global online coaching platform called the Artful Dollar. And we have hundreds of clients all around the world, most of them tattooers, but we just signed on someone who's a real estate agent who just really resonated with our message. And we've had painters, massage therapists, Reiki masters, like people that are just on the fringes of, not even the fringes of society, but just not people that generally look at our current financial service professionals as trustworthy or relatable sources of information. And so I found that my message seems to resonate with everyone else. That Chad from Fidelity and his blazer, no offense to Chad, you're cool, you're doing your thing, people need you too. Chad's a good, solid dude, but he's not for everyone. And so I'm trying to make available in an easy to understand, applicable, practical method to transform your relationship with money. Not just the numbers and the systems, but your whole mindset around money. When my mindset shifted, that's when my actions really started to shift in a more permanent way versus a temporary like Band-Aid.
Yeah, so that's the thing that stuck out to me the most, because when you were working on me, it seemed like the seed was there. I don't know if you were working with anybody, like as far as
If it was during
then,
the,
it was like,
was it 2020 or 2021?
I think it was 2020. It was pretty early on in the pandemic.
I maybe had one client, maybe two. I barely, it took a while for it to like really take off. It took a while for me to understand myself as a coach, as a financial coach, and like the whole identity around that. And there was like a weird death experience, like ego death of like my identity as a tattoo artist was being threatened by my identity as a financial coach. I've always worked with coaches my whole life, professional coaches, business coaches, personal coaches to, I would say life's too short to learn from your own mistakes. So learn from someone else's. It's actually cheaper to hire a coach so that you don't have to make the mistakes than it is to make the mistakes for a long time trying to figure it out on your own. It's actually less expensive.
I think that's great advice, because I think something that I fall into is the idea that like, well, I could learn anything. I could just learn this. I don't need to hire somebody for this. But
and here's the truth. You can, Anthony.
Yeah,
you can.
yeah.
And you might not pay money to learn it, but you'll pay in time and energy.
Right.
And I feel like, especially with creative, it's so stigmatized to talk about money. It almost makes you not as committed to your craft if you even whisper anything about money. And it's so true. And I know I've experienced that shift myself. And to me, money is like energy. If you don't use it, if you don't understand it, it's almost stagnant. And you have to keep it in flow in order for you to even have any type of reciprocity towards it as well.
Yeah, so my personal mantra that I have used 10,000 times, I've recited this out loud, I've written it down. I'm a big proponent of finding a couple mantras, and sometimes there's parts of my life where I need to create something new, but money is a flow of energy. It flows to me and it flows away from me, and my only job is to not block that flow.
Yes.
So my job is not to make money. My job is not to create money or find money, discover money. Money is all around us all the time. It's like in massive abundance. I mean, the government just produced like $3 trillion or something insane like that. It's around us all the time. And there's things that I do that block that flow, like worrying about money or avoiding money or, judging myself or others around money. All that stuff blocks the flow. And so I have to practice like awareness around, oh wait, I'm in fear and scarcity right now. Like the pandemic, when my business closed and my money was definitely threatened, I had to tell myself like, it's actually expensive and I cannot afford to worry about money right now.
Yes.
I have a family, I have things to provide for. I can't afford it. So I'm going to acknowledge it. I'm not going to resist it or beat myself up for worrying about it. That's not useful either. But I'm going to hear it. I'm going to see the worry. I'm going to hear the thoughts. And I'm going to say, you know what? You're not serving me right now. What's going to serve me is to keep surrendering, keep opening the channel, and trusting that as much as this flow is flowing out of my life right now, if I allow that flow and open the channel and let it be, it will flow in equally, if not in greater quantities, if I trust that process. And it's consistently shown to be true in my life.
Yeah, I guess sometimes I like this, what you're saying. Believe me, I do honestly like this.
Hit
the
me.
hard thing for me.
Pick it apart.
So
break it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's
be
where
skeptical.
I'm coming from.
I want people to be skeptical.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to be skeptical, not to just be skeptical, but I come from a traditional Italian family from the Bronx. Like, scarcity mindset is just in me. It is part of who I am. And I want to get to where it is in my DNA. It's in my core. I want to get to where you are. I really do. Because also, I mean, on the other side of this, at the heart of going into like full-time professional artist, the thing that I hear the most from other artists that I've talked to is the idea of not making enough or not feeling financially secure, and how that affects your creativity. It affects the work. Like, you do have to have a certain level of comfort around your finances to kind of freely create. So I want to get to where you are to feel that way, because I do have that scarcity mindset. I'm just being honest. And I think a lot of people do. So, like, what are some steps that I could take to get to this enlightened being as you are? Or like
Yeah.
some things that you could tell
So first of all,
tell
like-
me now, or like,
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think it's helpful to know that, like, while I definitely don't come from a background of poverty, I don't come from, wealth or anything like that. Like, I'm a white male in America, so there's certainly levels of privilege and stuff like that I can take responsibility for. My father grew up very poor. Like, they didn't always have shoes growing up, and he's from an Irish Catholic background. And my mom's an artist, and she's been an artist my whole life. She worked for a mural company doing like mural architectural restoration, murals. If your church ceiling needed to be touched up, you'd give them a call, So yeah, I don't come from whatever. I don't know. And even if I did, the thing is there are people that come from wealthy backgrounds that have scarcity mindset.
oh, absolutely.
You know. So it's almost irrelevant in a sense. But when I meet someone that is, definitely aware that they have a strong scarcity mindset and that their natural go-to way of being around money is that there isn't enough and I need to figure out how to get more. And then I'll be happy, right? So that way of thinking is a have, do, be. If I have more money, then I'll do the things that I am supposed to be doing, like making more art and da-da-da-da-da, and then I'll be happy, right? That's a have, do, be equation. Now, that equation doesn't work for anyone. There's not a single person on the planet that actually works for, but it's a very common way of thinking about the world. If I have more money, then I'll do the things that I'm supposed to do, and then I'll be happy, right? Can you relate to that?
Yes, I can.
And to some degree, right? And so what I want to offer, and this isn't an original thought of mine. I have participated in a lot of coaching courses, and this one particularly comes from something called Landmark Education, the Landmark Forum. I don't know if you're familiar with it or heard of it, but it's something I've participated in quite a lot of courses, and it really has made all the difference in my life, is the concept of a be, do, have mentality. So rather than focusing on what it is that I need to have in order to do, in order to be, I'm going to focus on who do I need to be? How is my way of being going to generate the actions that I take? Can I make art from a place of financial well-being first? And when I'm doing that, that's a lot more in line with the way the universe actually works. And naturally, I will have the things that I aspire to have. Whether I get exactly what I want, I don't know. But I will certainly get what I need. I can guarantee that. And I find when I bring my awareness and my attention to who am I being in this situation, so who am I being around money? So that would be the first thing I would ask you, is to just really bring your awareness to, not in a judgmental or critical way, but in a curious, inquisitive way. What's my way of being around money? And then you can look and see, okay, what are the actions that's giving me? I don't have to know your way of being around money to know that you are acting in alignment with your way of being around money. Would you agree?
Clarify exactly what you mean by that question.
So
what do you mean the acting around money?
So
or
let me
being
ask you
around
this. Here's a really great way to explore this. And anyone listening to this is what's going to make it really clear.
Okay.
Anthony,
Let's do it.
you're a painter, right?
I am.
When you go to paint, how would you describe your way of being?
My way of being when I go to paint, I am in emotional flow of creativity.
Can you say anything else about that? Are you having fun?
Oh yeah, I'm completely having fun. It's all fun. It's all good.
It's all good. It's all fun. Anything else? Any other ways of being around? Like, can you see that like having fun is a way of being that you are around painting?
Am I understanding the question wrong?
No, you're doing perfectly. I'm saying,
great.
can you see that it's not just that you're having fun, it's that you are fun when you're painting. It's who you're being naturally.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and then now how is that working out for you in terms of your painting? Are you getting the result that you want to get?
From my painting, yeah. I mean, when I'm in that
painting.
place. Yeah. When I'm in that place,
right?
I am just in the zone. It's fun. It's exciting. It's fresh. I'm learning. I'm experimenting.
I've seen your painting. We traded a tattoo for a painting.
I have
your painting hanging in my tattoo shop. Everyone that sees that painting, it's of ODB. It's fucking amazing. Everyone that sees your artwork, Anthony, it comes through that you're having a fucking good time.
I agree.
I think that's what's so attractive about your artwork, is that it's like people just want to be around your art because they're so present to what a good time you're having making it. You know?
I love it. Tell me more. Tell me more.
Yeah. I would say, I'm assuming it's working really well for you to have a way of being around painting that's fun and flow and experimental. And there's probably not a lot of fear there, right?
No, not at all.
It's clear. It's obvious, right? Okay. So now that we've established your way of being around making art, how would you describe your way of being around money?
Being around money. Let's see. I am. What do you mean being around money? Like if I'm in a bank? If I'm in a bank, I feel like I'm waiting online. My legs hurt.
Okay. So let's say you are about to charge someone some money, or you get a bill in the mail, or you have to just deal with money. Like what's there for you? It's certainly not
definitely
fun,
feel
right.
No, it's not fun. I definitely feel more uncomfortable. Actually, the fun that I do have with money, I started investing over the pandemic. That's my first like entry into investing, and that I find fun because I like the idea of building a future and saving. That actually I'm good with. But I will agree with you when I have to charge somebody. Because art to me, I'm more on like the romantic side of art. Like I'll have a whole conversation about the meaning with the person and like talking about the idea. But I do agree when it comes to saying like, here's my price and charging them and doing that whole thing, I am a little bit more uncomfortable around it because of my childhood messaging about money and rich people and money in general. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's
it's not
an
fun
uncomfortability. It's not fun. There, I hear a little bit of judgment.
Yeah.
Right? There's some judgment of yourself, of rich people, whatever the fuck that means.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, sorry, rich people. But yeah, I mean, that's just the messaging.
First of all, let's just get clear on what rich people are. All right? But the average income, if you took all the income of all the people on the planet and you averaged it out per person, the average person earns $5,000 a year.
Yeah, no, I know rich people. There's no problem
you're
with rich
rich.
people.
You are rich.
No, I get it. I get that.
Yeah,
I get that.
No, I'm just saying it's a healthy perspective because we think rich people are people that earn $1 million and over a year. Yeah. But in the scheme of things, you and I are extraordinarily wealthy compared to people around the globe. You know.
Yeah. No, I understand that.
So you're being uncomfortable. You're being somewhat judgmental. Is there anything else that comes up for you? Do you feel tight? Do you feel overwhelmed? Do you feel confused? Any of that stuff coming up for you around money?
Not overwhelmed or confused, but I do get like, maybe a little bit of a tightness, or at least I did more. I'm better with it now, but yeah, there is some of that. Yeah. But definitely an uncomfortableness. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would even suggest or propose like the levels of tightness and uncomfortability that you have, you've almost gotten comfortable with the degree of uncomfortability you have around money. So it might not even seem that extreme to you.
Oh, yeah. I can live in an
compared to my level of
day.
uncomfortability around money, you're very uncomfortable around money.
Okay, probably.
Right. You're just so used to it that it's like, you know. So now let's say you were to go do a painting and your way of being before you stepped into the room and you grab the paintbrush and you have the paint, you're right there and you're uncomfortable, judgmental, and tight, you know? How well would that go for the painting?
Not very well. Although, I don't know. That sounds interesting. I'd like to try to use that. Maybe it would be awesome, actually. That sounds cool. I like this. Man, how much do I owe you for this?
$10,000.
No, this is actually I just got a tightness in my chest. This is actually no. You know why this is good is because I do think the fear around money does transfer into the studio at some points. Because I will tell you, when I went full time, the first few paintings I made, and when I say few, I mean for a while, I did have more of a not a tightness, but the fear definitely entered the studio. Where when I was making money from a full-time job, it was all fun. That was just complete release. You know what I mean? So like after work, I knew I got my paycheck. The finances were there. So it was 100% fun and creative. And then
so
going full-time.
How did that go for you because your way of being shifted in that moment when you went full-time? Your way of being around art, some of your way of being around money was imbued into your way of being around art. And how did that go?
Not well at all. I wanted to kill myself. No, I didn't want to kill myself, but not well at all. I mean, and that's not a joke for anybody, whatever. But
it didn't go very well.
It was horrible because it does enter in, and then it feels like the stuff I'm making. And Zhanna, or at least it sounded like to me, you've experienced a similar thing. Like going full time, that fear enters the studio. And then the things you're making, you're questioning what you're making. You start to think, I have to make a certain thing that's going to sell. And it's definitely not as free and not as it's not as fun.
Yeah, it took me about
it took a long
year
time
to get back to that place where I used to have an e-commerce business, and we were acquired 5 years in, and which allowed me financially to pursue art full time. And before that, I did it part time. And when I went full time, there's something shifted that I was thinking, okay, this is a luxury product I'm creating. And I hate thinking of it like this, but that's what it did to me. But when I was running a business, my mindset about money was energy. And when I got the bill, I used to say, I have to pay, I am glad that I get to pay this bill, instead of, I have to pay this bill. And my business took off. But it took me about a year to translate that mindset into art. Because on one hand, you want to be taken seriously as an artist with galleries and collectors, which you have this, it's bullshit, but it's a preconceived notion of you have the starving artist and you have to suffer for your work. But it's like financial suffering, but you still have to eat.
That whole story.
It's such a story.
And that whole story.
It benefits only people who are on top.
Story is a way of being.
Yes, it is a story for sure.
So there's actually a term, it's called ontology.
Yes, and
which is the science of being. And there's a lot of research, neuroscience and stuff that's going into, because we are human beings, right? We're human, that's the type of animal we are. And then we be some type of way. That's just the nature of us. So in this conversation, you can see who you're being is directly related to what you're doing and how you're doing it, which is directly related to the result that you get at the end. So that's where I would start, and that's generally where I start with people in the conversation. Is like, who are you being? Who are you being around money? And is that serving you? And if it's not serving you, first, we just cultivate awareness around this. So this is actually something that I think is missing. There's a lot of TikTok and social media, money influencer people, whatever, quote unquote, guru, blah, blah, blah. Manifestation is a big topic. And I'm a firm believer in the power of manifestation, but you can't you can't put icing on a mud pie and have it taste good. So if your way of being around money is shit and based in fear and scarcity, and you just start saying like, I'm going to have infinite abundance, is going to flow easily into my life from all directions, and da-da-da-da, you're doing that on top of, I'm going to go broke any minute now, And you can't overpower, like I said, you can't make a mud pie taste good by putting icing on top of it. So you first have to create some space in the relationship you currently have with money. When you shine light on it, when you bring your awareness to it, when you start to investigate it and get curious around it rather than resisting it, because that's what most people do. We don't even want to look. We don't want to pick that rock up and look under there. It's gross. But when we do that, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm like, have a lot of fear and scarcity, and this came from my relationship. My parents were like this, and it weakens that mud pie that doesn't taste so good. It starts to disappear. It never fully goes away, ever. It never, ever, ever fully goes away. My fear around money is still present. The difference between now and 10 years ago is it's a tiny little creature on my shoulder versus this over-consuming monster. And I hear the fear, but my relationship to it is so like, I hear you, dude. I appreciate you for sharing with me your fear-based thoughts. I acknowledge you. I know that you care about me, but you do not serve me. And so I want to respect you, and I respect your opinion, but it doesn't serve me. And so I'm not going to adopt this perspective. And that's really my relationship to fear around money. It's still there, it's still present, but the way of being around it has completely shifted.
In theory, I love everything you're saying. And I don't mean in theory like it's not real. I just need to, I need to get there. I need to learn how to
Anthony,
get there.
do you mean that I haven't completely changed your life in the past 5 minutes in a
impactful
way?
No, I'm lying. Actually, I
forever,
just realized.
Permanently?
No, I just realized there's a pile of cash on my floor all of a sudden. I didn't see it before.
There you go.
Here we are.
It's
I'm
that
rich.
easy. And in 5 minutes, I can
You just
make a pile of money appear in front of you.
All right, this podcast is over. My life is fixed, and all you can go fuck yourselves. I'm rich. No, I'm like, but I just want to say something
it's a practice.
I just want to say something that really resonated when you. So again, I don't know where you were at in your journey when you did my tattoo. So I just have different language around some of this stuff. when I met you is around the time that I just went full time. So there was a lot of fears in me. And the way that I felt about this was when I had a full-time job and my financial, like I was just getting a steady income, my inner voice around painting was just 100% positive because it was all extra and it was all fun and it was all good. And anything that came in from it was just like, wow, this is incredible. Somebody's paying me a couple of $1,000s for a painting. Like, this is incredible. So everything around it, my whole inner voice around painting and the money I was getting from painting was positive, and I felt like so much more was coming in. And then as soon as I went full time, I think it brought up all of these fears because now I didn't have I just didn't have the stability there. Somebody took all the scaffolding away, and now I was just in the middle of Siberia. Zhanna, thank you for that. And now the painting, it was coming from a fearful place, and I felt like my productivity and also my income actually lowered for a while. But what you were saying when you were working on me, I think it was, I don't know if it was around the time you did your ayahuasca journey or a little bit, I mean, obviously it was after, I don't know how much after, but you were talking about the idea of that ego death. It seemed like that was your financial awakening, and you were talking about that, like the positivity around thinking about money and like the freedom and the scarcity mindset going away and like the fears going away. So I do believe it, it's just doing the work to get there when you don't have a paycheck, which I think is hard for a lot of artists, especially when they first enter into like the full-time career.
Thinking about it, like, it's hard, and I get why that perspective is present because you have lots of reasons why it's hard, but we either have the results we're looking to produce or we have the reasons why we're not producing them. You can't have both at the same time. In that intense fear, when you go full-time as an artist, that's the best place to do the work because it's the most present for you. And you can actually deal with it. You can actually face it. You can't actually fully face it. You can't face the dragon head on in the way you can, if you kind of have this other side. I'm not saying quit your job now and go, but at some point you do kind of have to step off the ledge. And when you do, that's when you'll get to face it. And it's a beautiful moment, actually. It's an opportunity. And I say this in my course, I beat people over the head with this. Every breakdown is an opportunity for a breakthrough. But you have to have the breakdown first in order to have the breakthrough.
I love that.
And what we do a lot in life is we avoid ever having the breakdown, but we want the breakthrough. We're like, but I'm just going to really try to play it safe, and so I don't have any breakdowns. I'm going to try to manage it all to avoid having any breakdowns. Meanwhile, you're just in one giant breakdown, which is avoiding breakdowns. And then you don't really allow yourself to have the breakdown in its most useful way, and then you never have the breakthrough.
That is gold right there, guys.
I know. And that just hit me. I just wanted to sit in that for a second.
But that's such a great language around it. I think that's going to really help a lot of people, especially creative people.
Hey, all you Artful listeners, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for giving a listen to the podcast. I hope that it's bringing some value to you in your life. That's really why I started this podcast. And if you're getting something useful or valuable out of it, I just want to invite you to go rate and review this podcast. It really helps me out. And it also helps other people find this podcast so that they can get some value out of it. They can feel more free around money and just get some wisdom and some knowledge that we're trying to share on here. So again, I'm not really asking anything else of you other than to just leave a review and rating for this podcast. It really helps me out and it helps other people find us. So thanks and enjoy the show. There's something that in this other course I took, they refer to as like the fear barrier. This comes from, if anyone's familiar with Bob Proctor, the Proctor Gallagher Institute, they talk about the fear barrier. And I did a 6-month coaching program with someone trained in that methodology. The fear barrier is like the thing that we're terrified of that we just spend our whole lives avoiding. And you can have multiple fear barriers, but the secret isn't to, just jump on in and dive into the fear barrier. No, but lean into it. When you start to relate to that fear as something to lean into versus something to shy away from, your whole life will start lining up in ways that you would like to see it starting to line up. And sometimes it just takes a while moving through resistance and whatever we got to go through. But I've trained myself that when I start to fear something, like the other day I was thinking about working with this new coach. I know I'm talking a lot about coaches because I put a lot of time, energy, and effort into coaches and coaching. I did my taxes for 2022, I spent $73,000 on coaching programs and one-on-one coaches in 2022.
Moly.
And now that has returned on an investment, tenfold. Like it literally has. It's returned and it will continue to return. And I'll probably spend more than that in 2023.
How do you select coaches?
This is the answer to your question right here. So I was talking with this coach, looking to work on some personal areas of my life, but also professional. It's all tied together really for me. I was like, you know what? I've got a lot going on right now. I really like this. I want to do this. I have a good gut feeling. So first of all, I pick coaches because I have a good gut feeling. And I've learned to listen to my gut and trust it. And I said, yeah, I just got this gut feeling that like right now is not the time. I would really like to talk in 1 month, 4 weeks. She said, okay. And then after the conversation, the weekend went on and it was just like resonating with me. The conversation did not leave my mind. And then I started to realize that I actually had some fear around working with her because of what I would have to give up in order to actually have my life really work in every area of my life. What I'd have to surrender, what I'd have to give up. And a lot of it's all comfort zone shit, And I realized I had to be 100% willing to give it up to work with her. And my dad always says there's a huge difference. I'm going to drop a lot of bombs on you guys today. There's a huge difference between being 99% committed and 100% committed. There's a huge, it's a fucking ocean, an Atlantic Ocean difference. And when you're 99% committed to something, it is fucking hard. It's an uphill battle. You're like almost there, but not quite. And you got one toe out. You got your escape route, in case you have to bail on it. But when you're 100% committed, the universe literally rearranges itself in order to help you fulfill on your mission when you're 100% committed. And so I realized the reason my gut was telling me that I don't know if I should work with her is because I actually wasn't 100% committed to having a life that really works for me and everyone in my life fully in every area of my life, because I'd rather stay in the things that are comfortable and familiar, which are really not comfortable at all. They're just familiar. There's no such thing as the comfort zone. There's the familiar zone and the unfamiliar zone. That conversation just stuck with me, and I realized I was afraid of that, and I called her up 2 days later. I said, I'm ready to work with you. Because I was afraid. That's that fear. I recognize it. That's that fear that when I lean into it, I'm actually rewarded. But if I don't lean into it, I will stay stuck in resistance and stay suffering until I'm ready to take responsibility and lean into it.
Damn, Ryan, you're fucking me up right now. I got to tell you. Let me ask you a question. Do you have an extra bedroom in your apartment that I could move into?
I do. The rent is $100,000 a month.
All right, done. Easy.
Yeah. You will see a return on your investment.
I promise. I
guarantee
manifest
you.
it. It'll be fine.
I always tell people, no, I wouldn't. I don't charge those prices yet, but one day I will. When I work with people, I don't sign someone up. I don't work with someone waiting to see if it works out for them. I'm not like, I think it's going to work for this person. I'm pretty sure it's going to work. I don't do that. It's only going one way. You are getting the fucking results that you came here to produce. And that's it. There's no or and, but. There's none of that. And that's a way of being for me. Can you see how ineffective it would be if I was a coach and I was, all right, you're going to pay me a bunch of money and I'm going to hope that it works out for you. Now, obviously, you need to be committed. You need to take action and stuff like that. You're fucking committed. You're getting the results. It's only going one way, and that's my way of being around coaching you. I coach you like you are already capable of producing all the results that you want to produce. You might not relate to yourself that way, but that's why working with me is so powerful. Is because I'm going to always relate to you like the massively successful and effective and happy, joyous, and free person that you already are, that you don't even see yet, but you will, I promise.
Wow, you know what's funny that just hit me while you were saying that? The way, it really is just a mindset thing in some ways. I mean, you have to have the technique and the foundation there, too, like you're saying about the mud pie. But this just hit me that, like, the way you're talking about money and making money and being around money is exactly how I would talk to somebody who wanted to learn how to express themselves through painting. You know, like with that level of, because that you basically have the level of confidence around money and the flow of money that I would around, somebody like teaching somebody how to genuinely express themselves. That's so fascinating to me. And that's what it is.
It's all the same. That's why my company's called the Artful Dollar, because money is just another medium. You know, I am Bob Ross, and money is the paint, and my life is the canvas. And I'm just going to paint a happy little tree.
And you got a bunch of happy little trees around you. Yeah.
That's it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. Something I do want to switch topics a little bit. I
Yeah.
love this, and I think this is going to be so huge for a lot of people to hear, and we have to have you back on to talk more about this
For sure.
eventually. But I do
Absolutely.
want to switch onto a subject that you and I were talking about on the phone the other day. Basically, what happened in your journey. The idea of being a tattooer. Is it tattooer or tattoo artist? Is tattoo artist offensive now? Is that like not on the table anymore? Because I feel like
that's my word. Okay, you can't say that.
Okay.
No.
Oh, let's not go there. Okay. No, because I've always said tattoo artist my whole life, and then you keep saying
Tattoo
tattooer,
artist.
so now I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
what's
I don't know
going on.
why I say tattooer.
That sounds so much.
It's maybe because it's like a painter,
No, I guess it makes sense.
illustrator.
Yeah, painter.
You're a tattooer.
Painter,
Maybe
tattooer.
that's why.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I got it.
Tattoo artist, tattooer, yeah.
But the idea of, especially for artists, like being some type of artist is so ingrained in our personality. Like I know for me, being a musician or being a painter, like that's such a part of my core. And switching into something else would almost feel like something in me is dying, or it's not even like an external judgment. It's just like, this is such a part of my DNA, and now I'm just not doing it anymore. That doesn't feel right at my core. But you're basically doing that, and in some ways I feel like I'm also going through a little bit of a transformation around that, which I don't have to talk about now. But yeah, what is that like for you, or how does that feel? What has that journey been like for you?
I'm glad we're talking about this because I've been talking a lot about it on Instagram. A friend of mine posted something about tattooers, and tattooing is fucking hard. It's hard on your body. After 15 years of it, you fucking feel it in your back. And we were talking about, what would your second act look like, be like? Because if you started tattooing in your 20s, it'll be very difficult to be tattooing in your 50s. And you're not retiring. You can't touch your IRA until you're 59 and a half. So tattooing deep into your 50s is going to be a challenge. And what would it look like if you were to do something else? And I think that's not just the case for tattooers. I mean, I think anyone, hairstylists, barbers, literally anything, like, it's hard to want to do the same thing forever. But then, yeah, you feel like, well, this is me. This is what I do. I'm the painter. I'm the photographer. I know myself. I only know myself to be that. Other people know me to be that. If I started to do anything else, it feels threatening to our ego, our identity. But I think it's so healthy to give yourself permission to say, you know what? I've been this thing my whole life. And while it's, in a sense, defined a part of my life, it does not define me as a person. And I actually think it's super healthy for artists to stop identifying yourself with your artwork. Mm-hmm. You're an artist, you make art, you made art, but the quality of the art, the price of the art, none of that has anything to do with you as a person. And when you can start to make that separation, I actually think it's very healthy for your artwork.
Yeah,
I agree. I think a lot of artists need to hear that too, because there is, I believe, a big link from depression in artists because of that. If their work starts to go down, if their price starts to go down, it feels like it's a reflection on them as a person, and it's not. So, more artists need to hear that.
And then, what if you want to do something else in life and switch careers? So I didn't really think about, am I going to tattoo forever? I just assumed I was going to tattoo forever. But like I said, it was getting hard on the body. And then, the silver lining for me in the pandemic was it opened me up to this thing that I am, to be completely honest, I never thought I'd be more passionate about anything than I was about tattooing. And I am much more passionate about this work that I do now than I ever was about tattooing. And it doesn't mean I want to stop tattooing, but I kind of don't even, I'll always think of myself as a tattoo artist, but I haven't really tattooed in months, maybe once or twice. And I might do a couple pieces in the next couple months, but going from tattooing 4, 5, 6 days a week at points in my life to months at a time without tattooing is super weird. I don't know exactly what the question was I was going to answer with it, but I'm just sort of talking about it.
It was, do you like hot dogs or hamburgers better?
Yeah.
Well, I think we went
is a hot
way,
dog a
way
sandwich? I thought,
we went way,
is a hot
way
dog
off
a
topic.
sandwich? That's really the question. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's healthy to give yourself some space to do, and you can always come back, Mm-hmm. There's no rules. I think there's a lot of artists that are also really interested in things like psychology and social work and other types of service and ways to help and put out something good and meaningful in the world. Not that art doesn't do that, but in other ways. Yeah, do it. Explore that. I just think that's so helpful.
I agree. I think it can actually add to your practice whenever and if ever you decide to pick that up. I think you're allowing yourself to be a more whole being.
Yeah. Oh, I have a whole idea of how I want to approach tattooing when I do step back into it on a more regular basis, and being much more intentional and really actually bringing in elements of coaching into tattooing. And like, I want to sit and do like a 2-hour consultation with you. I used to do 15-minute consultations with people. I want to sit and I want to get to know you, and I want to learn about your spiritual journey. You know, part of my spiritual journey, I think anyone's, is you're constantly remembering and forgetting over and over and over again, remembering messages from past lives and little nuggets of wisdom that you then forget and remember over and over again. And so I want to help design a tattoo in a collaborative way that is that reminder for you, that the thing that you need to be reminded of for the rest of your life on your spiritual journey that will continue to serve you. I want to make tattoos that are inspired by that. And that's part of what I foresee my tattooing practice looking like in the future.
That's so funny that you're saying that, because I feel like, well, I'll start with this. I think it's fine to switch careers, or like, this is what the journey is. If you're a painter, if you're a tattooer, and it leads to something else, that is the journey. And I think it's a beautiful thing. So the thing I wanted to go back to is what you're saying about having longer consultations. That's kind of what led me to where I want to be. So when I work with somebody on a piece, my consultations, I would have a Zoom call with everybody. Anybody who wanted a commission piece, I would have a Zoom call with. And they started getting longer and longer. I'll sit on a Zoom call with somebody for an hour or more to find out like who they are, like why they want this piece, what they want it to mean to them. And I'm not only finding out about what they want it to mean explicitly, but I'm finding out who they are and almost painting what they need instead of what they want, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting to know them. I'm getting to understand, like, what do you really want from this piece? Like, why are you asking for it? Why do you want this character or this person? So I'm really trying to,
I don't want to tattoo what you want. I want to tattoo what you need.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's how I feel when I'm talking to them.
That.
Like, I'm really trying, and this isn't like bullshit. I'm really trying to understand who they are and what they need. So when they look at this piece, like, if there's a sadness in them that they're not expressing or tapping into, but that's what I'm getting from them, I want to create a piece so when they look at it, they're just like, holy shit, I see my 10-year-old self in this, and they're like, break down and cry. Like, I want to make people cry, basically. But yeah, like, I started to realize, especially after I went full time, that was the important thing to me. I love making cool shit. I love painting, and I love, like, I mean, it's cool to make money off of the paintings that you're making, but the thing that I actually value is that human connection and talking to them about what they need. And after I deliver the piece to them, like, seeing their appreciation or what it does for them or their family or their daughter that they bought it for or something like that. And that kind of led me to this podcast, really. I want connection with other artists, with other collectors, with Zhanna, when we have conversations about like AI art or whatever crazy stuff we're talking about. Like, this human connection is something that's really important to me. And I learned so much about life and this career and these different journeys when I have these individual conversations that, like, I just want to share with the world, because that's important to me. And it's not scary to me that my life has kind of segued into this, but me and you had a private conversation while you were doing a tattoo on me that I loved. And now I have the opportunity to, like, talk to you on this open forum, and hopefully people listen to this. And now they get to hear the conversation that we had. The conversation between us helped me out so much, and it opened me up to different ways of thinking about money specifically, because that was one thing that came up that I have a thing around. If I can get that out there, I think that's amazing. And I love that my life has taken me this way, you know? And I also, I mean, it's the same thing with like Zhanna. I met Zhanna at an art fair 2 years ago. And like the way our vibe was and our conversation was, like, that also became a part of this. Like, it's just this giant snowball that you keep picking up. Like, you pick up a tree here and you pick up a barn there. And eventually you get to, as you're going down the mountain, you're like, wait, I could set up a whole farm because I have a barn, I have a tree. Like, you just find the different tools that you're picking up along the way. Oh, there's a dog in my face. Yeah, you just like pick up all the tools that you've been collecting over the years, and it's fine if you're not what you were. It's going to lead to something else, and that should be beautiful. That's how life is. You know?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a
Yeah.
scary thing is what I'm saying after all that blabbering on that I just did.
But it is a scary thing, and I think
It's okay to be scary.
I
It's okay to acknowledge it. Yeah.
anytime I hear should or shouldn't, I immediately like a red flag goes up for me. I'm like, there's no such thing. There's no should. Not that it should or shouldn't be scary.
Well, that's
It
interesting
is scary.
I
It
have
doesn't need to be scary.
I have a workshop around fear of changing careers. So you can take my workshop and I'll get all that fear away. Well, of course, it's a scary thing.
Yeah.
I guess I use the word should or shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't use that word. But yeah, I'm just saying I try not to think of it as a scary thing. And I try to think of life as like it's a journey and it's going to lead you to different places. You know, one reason why I think about that is because before I was painting, I was in a touring band, and that was the art form that I was doing. And like, there was a point where that was my whole identity. And the idea of not being in a band and not being a musician was like, that doesn't make sense. I've been playing the guitar since I was 10 years old. And then when that was coming to an end, I just immediately started painting because I used to paint more. I used to draw more. And like, it was kind of a seamless transition that I just went from one thing to another just because like, that's just where my life took me. I started painting for whatever reason. And now that's what I'm doing now. And who knows what I'll be doing in 5 years. But you just have to kind of continue on this journey and like do what feels right at the time for you, I think.
Don't hold your idea of yourself so tightly.
Yeah, exactly.
Ryan,
Exactly.
do you have a morning ritual or routine that you do that puts you, like sets you up for the day? Or like a gratitude? Do you have a gratitude mantra?
I do think it's
I
important.
have a 2-foot high little munchkin comes and pokes me and starts judging me immediately and ordering me around the house. Her name is Veda. She's my daughter. And that's my morning routine. It's really, really refreshing. When I'm not being woken up by a tiny little munchkin, bossy munchkin, I meditate. You know, I do like meditating. There are times in my life where I have journaled every single morning. I wax and wane from that practice, but I will return to that again and again. I find that writing, and I'm a big fan of the Artist's Way. Are you guys familiar?
That's the morning pages.
That was another.
Yep.
The morning pages.
I do that, yeah.
You were telling me.
We
Oh,
were
I didn't
talking
realize
about that
that's what
too.
that was. We were talking about
Yeah.
that. Oh, I didn't know that
Yeah.
was the same thing. Awesome.
Yeah, the morning pages comes from Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, where you just write for about 20 minutes and you just brain dump. Even if you're just writing, like, I don't even know what the fuck to write. And I'm
You
fucking
write that
tired.
down.
No,
Yeah.
well, fuck life. You write it down. Exactly. You just don't stop writing. And I found when I do that, after about 10-ish minutes, like something kind of extraordinary starts happening. And like, it's as if I'm not in charge of what I'm writing. And I've had like beautiful messages downloaded and come through the writing, things that I really needed to hear. Like I can only bitch and moan and complain about aspects of my life for so long before I get completely sick of it. And then something beautiful comes through. But it's like, I think important to have a place to dump those thoughts, get them outside of the fucking weird shit show going on in here. So morning pages is something. So I would say my morning routine has shifted and changed from time to time, but I don't have some like masterful, this is the expert millionaire mindset morning ritual. I don't have that.
Damn it! What do we have you on here for?
I know. Honestly, I like to get up and fucking work. Like that's what I like to do. I do. Like if I had it my way, on days that I do have it my way, I get up and I make a cup of coffee. I meditate. Maybe I read for 20 minutes and then I just get right into working. And I really love it. I love doing what I do. And when I'm not meeting with clients, I'm building out aspects of the business or making sure the internal functioning things. And I used to be a solo act, and now I have a whole team of people that I work with. I have a COO and several client success management people to helping make sure that everyone in my courses, their needs are being met. So yeah, I'm just motivated by what I do. And I'm a big fan of this guy, Alex Ramosi. He's got a podcast. You could look him up. I heard him talk about like, fuck the whole morning ritual. He's like, you want a productive morning ritual? Wake up and work. That's productive, I also have a lot of energy in the morning. I'm a morning person. When I would draw all day, every day, 5 days a week, I like to wake up super early and draw. I felt like most of my creative energy was in the morning. And there's this idea that, and it doesn't really make sense because morning here on this part of the planet is different on the other side of the planet. But this idea that you wake up in the morning, and at least in your area of the planet, most people are not up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And so there's a lot of energy around you that has not been tapped into yet. And then around 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., a whole bunch of people are waking up and using that Shakti, that juice, that energy that's in the air. And then by 3, 4 o'clock, it's like, almost completely depleted. And so I like waking up at 4:30, 5 o'clock when I get the chance to. And I used to do a lot more before I had a child who exhausts the hell out of me, but I love her dearly. I felt like I had that energy, that the world is quiet and I'm here focusing on my goal. And it was just exhilarating. Like really, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why I prefer night painting, is because I feel like the rest of the world is kind of calm then, and that's when I could steal all that energy. Yeah,
it's interesting. People are either like I cannot draw after 5 p.m. Like
Wow.
It just the only thing I could draw is like if I already had a drawing outlined and I was just like detailing or something, that I could do. It didn't really feel like it involved a ton of like creative energy, but the creative sketching part I needed to do in the morning.
Oh, interesting. Because when I went full time, I was treating it more like a 9 to 5. So I would try to do everything in that time span. And there was a period where I was doing that only, basically. And then for about 2 weeks, I was only painting at night. And I was like, my brain just wakes up at night different. Like I just happened to something different at night.
Yeah.
And then I heard, I don't know if you're familiar with Andrew Huberman. He talks a lot about he's a neuroscientist. He talks about just different reasons why people do things.
Yeah.
He's a big morning ritual guy, stare at the sun in the morning, take a cold shower, all that stuff. But I heard him talking about basically the idea of in the morning for a certain span of hours is when you could really do things like anything that you'll check off a checklist, like more tasks or exercise, stuff like that would be from the morning until about 4 p.m. and then from 5 p.m. till 9 o'clock. Your brain works in a more ambiguous, creative. So basically he was saying anything like writing or drawing or painting, that's usually the best time for that. Obviously it's different for everybody, but
sure.
I just found that, that works for me for whatever reason.
It's not necessarily routine, but I am a huge fan of the banya, the Russian Turkish bathhouse in Manhattan, or any sauna, particularly if there is a good cold plunge adjacent. I like to spend 4 hours at the Russian Turkish bathhouse and, schwitz and then jump in that cold bath, and it just donkey kicks the stress out of my body.
Yeah.
And then go I'll hang out there for 2, 3, sometimes 4 minutes in that cold water, which is brutal, but eventually your whole body goes numb. It doesn't matter anyway. And then I'll go back in the sauna and I don't do drugs. I don't drink. And that's my high is going into the sauna. And I feel like a new person afterwards. I feel so
energized,
rejuvenated.
Yeah. I grew up in Siberia.
That's the end of the week usually.
Yeah. We do this all the time.
Yeah.
Even to young babies. You put them in the banya and then you throw them in the snow and you take the snow and you rub them.
My God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I love how you're saying you just throw them in the snow.
Yeah, because
you throw the baby in the snow. That's
Yep.
what you do. You throw them in the fire, you let them warm up, and then you throw them in the snow.
And then you go fight bears.
Oh,
my God. Damn,
And then you
that's
fight a
so
bear.
Russian.
Every Saturday you have to do this. It's a ritual.
It's a morning ritual, actually. It's every
throw the
morning
baby
you
in
fight
the
a
snow
bear.
every
And
Saturday.
then you take the
Fight a
snow
bear.
and you rub their body with it. And then you take them back to the
Yeah.
banya. Yeah.
Oh my God. No wonder why you guys are so gangster. It's crazy. That's amazing. That's incredible. Well, I know I've learned a lot and I have a lot to think about. Oh, we wanted to ask
what's your one takeaway from this conversation, Anthony?
My one takeaway from this conversation is that when I have a baby, I will be throwing them into the snow. And there's no two ways about it. I don't care what my wife says. They're going in the snow, and that's it.
I was hoping you'd say something else, but that's okay.
I don't remember anything else we talked about, actually. No, I mean, my one takeaway, I think one of my one takeaways, I have several one takeaways. One of them is I will most likely be taking your course because I like you and I like what you're saying, and I do like this stuff and I do believe it because, like I said, I do think it's a mindset thing. It has to be. Because I know I felt very different about this when I had a full-time job and I did feel that security and my inner voice was a lot different than what it was after going full-time. So that is something that I will be doing. So look out for my email or my text.
Excellent.
But yeah, I think that is it. It's the mindset shift and fully committing. And it's just a matter, for me anyway, it's a matter of getting there and understanding
I like
that
that we
fear.
didn't really. I've been on a couple podcasts, and sometimes we talk all about the systems that I help people implement. We get really practical and aspects of that, and then sometimes we talk all about the mindset. And I always enjoy the mindset conversation. I think it's a more powerful conversation. I could talk about the systems and stuff like that, but it doesn't land in the same way on a podcast, on a conversation that. This stuff I think is anyone hearing this conversation, I think this is going to resonate with you for quite a while.
Because mindset comes before systems. If you don't know that you need this, then who cares if you talk about systems if you don't know, if you're not ready to implement that in your life.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. Right.
We're also not like other podcasts. Other podcasts are boring and stupid. And
this is true.
Ours is awesome.
I've only been on boring, stupid podcasts, so I'm really glad
until now.
To be on an actually interesting, engaging one. That's refreshing.
You're welcome. And we do what we can.
Zhanna, what about you? What's your one takeaway from this?
One takeaway that I've been doing this for a long time, but you've said two things that even like empowered me to go even deeper or allowed me to go deeper is the formula of you be. And then I forgot the other two words, but what I got from it.
You be, that's all you matters.
Yeah.
Is who you matters most. It's be, do, have versus have,
and this
do,
was
be.
like a reminder I really needed to hear at this point in my career. And I'm really grateful. It's such a pleasure meeting you. And thank you so much for being on. I learned a lot, but this is like a deep reminder that I feel it really resonated with me. And I will be right now going forward.
Yeah. Amazing. And my one takeaway is that this stuff is just so much fun. It's just a lot of fun. Money can be fun. It continues to be fun in my life. We can have fun conversations around money, which who would have fucking thought that would be the case,
Yeah, I agree. We have to ask you something before you go. Okay, so we want to ask you to come up with a question to ask the next guest. We don't know exactly who the next guest will be, but they will be somebody in the creative field. Either a painter, or sculptor, tattoo artist. So what question would you want to know? This is a new thing we're trying that is kind of cool, I think. We think.
Can it be a two-part question?
Fine. We'll allow it. Zhanna already allowed it, so I like it.
Okay. So the question would be, if you now could go back in time to, let's say, your 18-year-old self. What would you want to tell your 18-year-old self? Now, if this person is close to 18, let's go a little further back to 14 years old or something.
Okay.
So I want to know, what would you tell that version of yourself? The second part of the question is, imagine yourself being 80 years old and coming back in time to talk to you right now. What do you think 80-year-old you would want? If you could say anything, what would 80-year-old you say to you right now?
Okay, it's one of the most confusing questions I've ever heard in my life, but we'll try to transcribe this, and we'll try to decipher this. If you were 80, okay, so hold on. Let me just make sure I get this question. If a train was traveling from Chicago to New York at 80 miles an hour and New York to Boston at 18 miles an hour, is that right?
But Anthony, imagine, do you know that, so the average age of a human being, at least in this part of the world, is around 80 to 83. So there's a really good chance that you will be 80 years old one day. Did you know that?
Yeah, of course I knew that.
Do you ever think about that?
Do you think nobody else
really
knows
think
averages? I know averages. You've told me two averages.
Do you ever take the time to really think about, like, you
that I will be 80 one day?
80 years old. You'll be 80 years old.
I'm actually going to die when I'm 63. Somebody told me that a long time ago, and I believe that.
Well, according to averages, you will be. That's not true.
Do you think I'll be making?
Do
you think I'll be making $6,000 by then, or will I still be making the average of $5,000 by then?
I think you will be, because of this conversation. I think you'll be far better off than you would have had we not had this conversation.
I agree with that. I agree with.
I like to think of, there's this concept of your inner child, right? You want to develop a healthy relationship with your inner child. I also think you have an inner elder. I think there's an inner
I do too.
version of you right now that's actually an old version of you, because the linear concept of time is total bullshit anyway. And so the 80-year-old version of you already exists, and they're just a little bit more tired and a little bit achy and have less tolerance for bullshit than you currently do. And what would they want to bestow upon you now. I feel like my 80-year-old self would just probably remind me to like, just fucking
go.
Take it easy.
Oh,
just chill
yeah.
the fuck out.
Yep.
Just take it easy, dude. Like, it's all good, and you are doing great. And the shit you're taking so seriously right now, you have no idea how good it gets from here. So, like, bear with
Or
some
what
of the
really
bullshit you got to
matters.
put up with.
You know?
What really matters?
You find out what really matters. Yeah.
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 And that nothing is as serious
Well, I don't
as
know,
you
you
are,
know.
as you think it is. You make it more serious, the story you tell yourself around any other subject. It's not as serious.
Yeah. So you might get the same answer, but I still feel like I want you to ask them that question because I want the question to be valuable to the person you ask it to.
Yeah,
I
no,
love that.
I was
I
just
love
joking
that.
about that. Yeah, no, I actually do love that, and the question isn't confusing. I just wanted to joke around with you, but no, I do love that question. But
Yeah.
Ryan, tell people where they could find you and what your course is and everything about you.
So I have a website. It's theartfuldollar.com. We are currently working with a branding company to redo a bunch of stuff there. But really the best place is to find me on Instagram at Ryan Roy, and it's ROI, like return on investment. That's my actual
Wow.
last name, not
How
a
fortuitous.
made-up last name.
Oh, nice.
Ryan Roy Tattoo, TATTOO. That's it. On Ryan Roy Tattoo, no spaces or anything like that. I post a lot of very valuable, free information, nuggets of wisdom on there. I really try to like give as much away for free as I can, so that if you want to do it on your own and get as much value out of it, great. And then if you need support with the implementation, or you just feeling stuck around it or something like that, and you really need that extra help, like that's what I'm here for. But I try to give as much away for free on Instagram as I can. Yeah, that's probably the best place to go. You can shoot me a message. I'm really active. I respond to everyone, and yeah, I look forward to meeting you.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. Well, you've heard it here first. There's an 80-year-old man inside of me. This has been another episode of Ready Go. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on. Seriously,
Yes.
It's been awesome. This has been
We
so
should have you
helpful.
on again.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
I will be back for sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed the show. Again, I just want to prompt that if you got some value out of this conversation, please go and leave us a rating and a review on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you saw this podcast. It really helps me out, and it really helps other people to find this podcast. I want more people to have these types of conversations around money so that we can all be more free and at ease and abundant and able to create the lives that we really want to live. So please share this and rate and review. Appreciate it. Thanks.